Following the publication of the Francis Report in 2013, healthcare professionals across the service have faced heightened scrutiny over their ability to show compassion for their patients. Whilst care and compassion have always been the values that have underpinned the ethos of the NHS, they are also encapsulated in all major religious traditions of the world, being their core principles of faith. Today, a faith-inspired innovation has been generated from within our health system to help create interdependency in the community by encouraging the active practice of shared values, truly empowering each other to live and better enjoy life. The Anon Care health system was officially launched at an exciting event at the Birmingham Nishkam Centre, which saw faith and health leaders gather to raise awareness and understanding of the importance of compassion and empathy in healthcare. We take a look at what was discussed on this historic occasion at the launch of the groundbreaking Anon Care compassion system.
Evolutionary analysis shows that compassion is a core, hardwired human capacity. We are all built to care. These shared values are encapsulated in all faiths, but actually compassion is a natural human response to the suffering of others. Today's event will aim to raise awareness and understanding of this human response and the role that it plays within the healthcare system. I would like to introduce our first speaker, Jyotveer Gill, who is the founder of Anon Care Health Network. Jyotveer is a healthcare professional and has served the NHS for many years throughout the United Kingdom. He has worked alongside NHS executives, contributing to communications advice to formulate strategies that have influenced both primary and secondary healthcare services.
So what's my story? Well, in 2010, to help relieve pressures on health services, I started to develop my own health system, a digital network. Its aim was to empower people with information so people themselves can make more informed, more educated decisions about living healthier lives. I took my idea for this digital innovation to the chairman of Guru Nanak Nishkam Sewak Jatha, Bhai Mohinder Singh, who inspired me to go beyond this concept and seek to empower people with values for the greater good. I was to find that by equipping people with the toolkits of compassion, empathy, selflessness, optimism, we could truly reduce over-reliance on healthcare services and create interdependency in the community. But how could I mobilize members on the system to help one another, to help support one another? This would require selfless social action for the common good. Bhai Sabji shared with me the following story. There was an old man who was once planting seeds of a mango tree when a passerby stopped and asked, "Why do you plant these seeds, old man? You'll be long gone by the time it bears fruit and you'll never get to taste the sweetness of the mangoes." The old man smiled and responded, "All the mangoes I've eaten throughout my life were also planted by the people before me." I was inspired that, like the wise old man, we should share such compassionate, selfless service that even after we are gone, people are reaping its benefits. I can now see how we could use digital technology to make compassion viral and leave a legacy for those who plant the seed. And so the Anon Care faith-inspired system was born, a digital network that brings together patients, carers, and healthcare providers for the shared management, shared responsibility for the health and well-being of another. Through the system, people could meet like-minded patients sharing similar patient journeys, and also share love and compassion for those who, as a result of a condition, were feeling lonely and isolated. Healthcare providers, through a special account on the Anon Care system, could publish resources, create communities, and engage with service users both within and beyond their boundaries, helping increase choice and transparency, and there was lots more. The Anon Care system was quickly highlighted by the NHS Institute as a high-impact innovation. It was dubbed by the media as a new Facebook for health, and endorsed by the International Charter for Compassion as a partner for promoting compassion across the globe. More recently, the Anon Care system has been shortlisted by the Social Media Communication Awards in the category of Innovation of the Year. But I think our greatest achievement has been networking people across the globe to go beyond cultural and geographical boundaries to share love and compassion for another. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce you to the Anon Care health system.
Even before birth in our mother's womb, we are protected and nurtured. As children, we are loved unconditionally and cared for compassionately. In early life, we share our affection with our siblings. As adults, we fall in love and commit our lives to taking care of our significant other. Our love grows as we do, sharing unconditional commitment for our partners. Finally, when we grow old, the love and compassion we practice throughout our lives becomes a legacy for others to perceive and aspire to. This is a life of love and compassion we all lead, but there are also all the little things in between. Introducing the Anon Care Network, a unique system that brings together patients, carers and health experts to share selfless love, compassion and care. The Anon Care Network has many exciting features to help you gain and give support to those that need it. Our health notes allow you to keep track and monitor any relevant information about your wellness and conditions through a private portal, specially designed to help identify the progression of a disease, note the presence of new symptoms, and to keep track of medications and appointments. By using a simple invitation system, you can share your health notes with family, friends and caregivers, making it easier for them to keep informed and involved in your care. Join healthcare communities dedicated to a range of conditions, helping you to meet like-minded people sharing similar health experiences. Choose from a wide selection of brain games to give your mind a workout whilst having fun. Our games are specially designed to aid learning and relieve stress by stimulating the mind. Use AnonCare TV to upload positive videos that educate, motivate and uplift viewers, helping people to live and feel better. These videos can include anything from motivational talks or patient feedback to help drive changes and shape priorities in healthcare. Network with a diversity of health experts to ensure choice and transparency. Go beyond comment, share and like culture of other networks and wish someone well or offer them a prayer, helping love and compassion go viral. You never know, your gesture could make all the difference to another. Anon Care includes all these features and more to help you share a life of selfless love and compassion. Join today at www.anoncare.com.
What are the features which get in the way of compassion? Well, it's pretty easy to identify some of them. The bigger an institution becomes, the more impersonal it becomes. And I'm afraid that the impersonality of it gets in the way of compassion. I've tried to identify some of these. The more bureaucratic an institution becomes, the less personal it becomes. You become known by numbers as opposed to by name. And I'm constantly reminded of my own religious tradition, which suggests in the scriptures that God calls each one of us by name. Having a name is what makes it personal, and that's what invites also care for each other. In large societies also, there are times when responsibility becomes attenuated. You find that people want to stick to the rules. Job's worth is a phrase we sometimes use in English. It's not worth our job to go outside the rules. Right? And sticking to the rules is also a way sometimes of thinking for oneself and evading responsibility. There are financial pressures which sometimes get in the way of compassion. Sometimes it's workload. Simply by overloading people's work, it gets in the way of caring for others. Sometimes it's the professional methodology that we use, because in some sense, the professional has got to think not just it's just you as a person, but somehow the professional's got to take a disinterested, dispassionate view of the person and the problems that this person has in front of them. So that's also an issue. I remember way back, I have several brothers and sisters who are in the medical profession, and I can still remember to this day, one of my brothers talking about delivered on floor 9. That's a way of distancing yourself from the problems that people suffer. People suffering sometimes is hard to accept personally. So you distance it by making it impersonal. So there is a kind of professional pressure also to become less personal in your relationships. And then there is the problem of what watching and listening to radio does to you. Sitting in front of the television. Now, you've all heard what's happened in Kenya. You've all heard what's happened in Pakistan and so on, so we could go on, Syria. But here we are sitting in our sitting rooms and just watching it on the television. And we may feel enormous empathy. The problem is not just simply to know what's going on, to feel it, but also what can we do?
Well, if you look it up in the dictionary or you Google it, there'll be several words associated with compassion. Sympathy, empathy, care, concern, kindness, and consideration. Healthcare is a biggie, and so is compassion. And as already been said, we're not saying that there isn't any compassion. What we want to do is enhance it. And we all know the challenges that we're operating under at the moment. So, healthcare is a biggie, including diet, nutrition, exercise. They're all multi-million-pound industries. And many of us want to be healthier and in order to live longer, but for us, this isn't very easy. And finally, compassion affects us all. It should transcend colour, culture, religion, political ideology, and social class. Compassion is essential for human relationships, which we all need to coexist. Thank you for listening.
One's mental, physical, and emotional well-being all contribute to health. So, the smile a cancer patient is greeted with every time she walks onto a ward may have just as much of an impact on her, if not more, than the chemotherapy treatment she is receiving in itself. Similarly, the compassion executed in helping a lonely person across the road may have the potential to make or break their day. As a society, then, we have a responsibility to one another to uplift health, well-being, and care through compassion in all that we do. Life is precious, and human beings are precious, not just when they are sick, but even when they are well, so that we can continue to remain this way. We can continue to remain well. Thus, compassion in healthcare involves developing a new mindset. Projects like Anon Care and Nishkam Healthcare are trying to use innovative methods to help develop this mindset. Both of these organizations are faith-inspired, values-led organizations. The Nishkam Healthcare Trust has the straplines, caring with compassion, helping with humility, and listening with love. Compassion and love are at the heart of this project, and the volunteers deliver compassion with passion. Community participation and teamwork have also been central to this project, from its inception to building construction to frontline service delivery and also building maintenance. I'm not saying that this organisation and what we're doing is perfect, but everybody does strive to live up to the values of love, humility, compassion. Along the way, we're all learning, and we're constantly re-evaluating, reapplying, and trying to better ourselves. Anon Care also aspires to these same values.
In May 2008, Archbishop Desmond Tutu addressed the main session of the World Health Assembly in Geneva. This was the 61st annual meeting of the World Health Organization, an opportunity for ministers of health and their staff to consider together the important trends and issues in global health. Gathered before Archbishop Tutu were ministers and diplomats from almost every nation. I'm sure you've seen TV footage of a General Assembly. It's a very grand setting. As well as the official delegates gathered in their famous tiered rows, staff from the World Health Organization stood eagerly along the sidelines, ready to hear this legendary elder of the struggle in South Africa. And then, in the public seating high up overlooking this grand meeting room, representatives from NGOs the world over peered down, awaiting the first ever religious leader to have been invited to address this impeccably scientific gathering. Archbishop Tutu did not disappoint. His speech brought out the compelling urgency of the health crisis facing the developing world. Drawing from his humble stories as a priest, he outlined the struggle with HIV and with the basic requirements for health, clean water, nutrition. He set out in plain overview what needed to be done. But then he concluded with a most remarkable declaration. All of you in the healing enterprise are God's collaborators in making this a better world, he said. God's collaborators. And as if uttering words from God, he called out, "Please help me. Please help me to realize my dream, that all my children will know that they are sisters and brothers, members of one family, the human family, God's family. Please help me. Help me." Well, the whole place broke into wild applause. Everyone was up on their feet. African voices were ululating and cheering. Dr. Margaret Chan, Director General of the World Health Organization, came down from her podium to embrace the Archbishop. Time passed. I looked around at people still clapping, photography flashes everywhere, a General Assembly in uproar. I looked back. Dr. Chan and Archbishop Tutu were still locked in an embrace. I couldn't quite believe my eyes. This is not typical behaviour at the World Health Assembly. Business is dull and frustratingly procedural. Our esteemed elder had opened up some space for God, there in the halls of the powerful. In his speech to Parliament this week, the King of Holland pointed to the inevitability of these new approaches to health and social care. This is a situation not just facing Britain. All over the world, we are either being pushed or pulled towards new forms of organising care for one another. Desmond Tutu foresaw this in his wonderful speech to the World Health Assembly in 2008. Our event this evening is a sign of more things to come. We seek collaboration, not to overcome the holes now appearing in health service and welfare state provision, but to re-engage the deepest human and religious values of mutual care and concern. All of you in the healing enterprise are God's collaborators in making this a better world. God's collaborators. Thank you.
So I'm stood in front of you thinking that the subject that we have requires several values to be important to us. The first is hope. Any NHS manager stood praising a technology innovation in front of an audience after the last 15 years of the National Health Service IT programme has to speak with a certain sense that optimism will overcome the bitter experience of billions and billions of pounds spent trying to build something from the top down. So I congratulate AnonCare on something that seems to me to offer exactly the opposite spirit of what we've experienced with the National Health Service IT programme over the last 10 years. Something that can be grounded in the real values that people bring to work, rather than something that can be brought to bear from above. Our organisation, Sandwell and West Birmingham Hospitals, a healthcare organisation, seeks to look after 500,000 people. We can't do that alone. We don't do it alone. We've heard from contributors this evening who are part of a wider partnership. But very often those partnerships are built by the enthusiasms and the energy of individuals connecting up particular parts of the system, rather than a wider organisation being able to stand in front of community groups, voluntary sector organisations, faith organisations, and say, actually, we need your help. And the basis on which I accepted this evening's invitation was precisely that spirit, that we would need to come without expertise, that we would need to accept the help that was in the room and in the wider community, and that we would need to learn the skills to harness corporately how we build on the participation that is all around us. Why do we need to do that? Well, what's the biggest challenge I face as a chief executive in a health service organisation? Isolation. I don't mean personal isolation. I'm good with that. Yeah? I mean the fact that we choose to operate sometimes as a little bit of an island, and the healthcare decisions that we very often find ourselves making are profoundly influenced by that isolation. In the end, this isn't about a national health service changing, and it isn't about a national health service being replaced. It's about a national health service and a set of communities that we serve, reconnecting with the values that brought us into the health service in the first place. So the challenge I would suggest to you that we face in delivering the compassion that much of the time we deliver so well is how we reconnect the people who serve in our health service, not just with the people who they serve, but with the reason they came into this service in the first place.
This is a charter for compassion. You have read it there. And this is water. Water is the life. There is no water, there is no life. There is no God, there is no life for us. If this is the foundation, the compassion, the charter for compassion, can I take away this foundation for a mini second? I can't, because my faith will collapse. So compassion is not something that you can do away with. We six, we are informed, we are all little sparks of the same divine flame. So if we are 160 sitting here, 160 little sparks is turning into a flame. And believe you me, I've been looking very carefully. Each speaker had some water in their eyes. Each time they spoke about compassion. Is a powerful emotion. You talk about your own mom. Immediately there's warmth. Why? Because she's compassionate. She's forgiving. She's loving. So the ambience is there. And I think the last speaker, Toby, said very well. Although we will see that this century will go down in history as a century of change, we don't want change for the sake of it. National Health Service, well, I can say this is international health service, because whatever we are saying here will apply anywhere. Those of us who have gone before us, who thought of creating NHS, were very wise people. What we need to do is to enhance, to empower people. And how do you empower people? You empower people with values. And when do you start empowering people with values? There is a stage, a period, pre-conception. Our physical genes will affect the structure of the new baby. But our values will affect the thinking of that new baby. The 9 months we are unborn, education has started. There is this story about an elderly man. And he goes to the hospital, he wants his thumb to be bandaged, and he's very restless. The nurse finds that he wants to jump the queue. She says, "No, you stay there." She looks after a few patients and comes and talks to him and says, "I believe you are restless because you are late. Are you late?" He said, "Yes, I'm very late." He says, "So where are you going?" He said, "I have to go and have breakfast with my wife." "Where is she?" "She's in a hospital." "So will she mind if you are a bit late?" He said, "Far from it. She has lost all memory. She doesn't even know. But when we were young, when we got married, we made a promise. Throughout life, as long as we live, we will have breakfast together. So I have to go and have breakfast with her, and I'm late. Although she doesn't know, I know it." She said, "Please come, I have to bandage you. Come quickly." Now that is love, that is responsibility. And that is compassion. This nurse is compelled to look after him very quickly. You see, you can have many tears. Prayers can be different. Tears are the same. Tears are the same. The pain is the same. We have connectivity and we have interdependence. We are connected with each other as we sit here. And even if there is no commonality, the dignity of difference is good. Variety is the spice of life. It's good to be able to see Sikhs, Muslims, everybody, people of all faiths. God in His wisdom has created diversity. We have to love everybody. We will not be asked in His presence, which religion did you belong to? We will be asked what we did. Our actions are going to be important. Love, forgiveness, and compassion must be fundamental to health system. We must seek and promote a compassionate care system which respects the dignity of those who give and receive care, and which is relationship-centered, not mechanical. A healthcare system cannot be divorced from spirituality. Too often our health system looks at patients as molecules, maybe, not persons. Not everybody does that. We have a lot of compassion within the healthcare, My wife is a nurse, I know that. She used to be very unwell. She said, but there are some patients I must go and see. And she would come back, I would say, you were feeling very unwell. She said, but something happened as I went and served the patients. So there's a lot of compassion there. We have to enhance that compassion. We have to repeat again and again that compassion is not something alien. It is within us. We can get it. God's compassion and love towards us is based on our own power to be compassionate and forgiving. If we can't forgive, how can we ask Him to forgive us? If we can't be compassionate, how can you ask for compassion from Him? I think I've taken too much time. I'll stop here. Thank you.
I would like to end with a fitting quote from the Dalai Lama. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. Thank you.